Okay. Welcome, LA Progressive friends and family. Today, I, Sharon Kyle, I'm here with a longtime friend and contributor to the LA Progressive, James Farr. Now, for those of you who don't know, James has been a regular contributor to the LA Progressive, but he's also a resident of Pasadena, California. And I wanted to sit down and talk to James about what he has been personally experiencing and witnessing as he lives in a community that is essentially under siege because of the terrible fires. And both James and I have friends who have lost their homes. So, James, let's talk about what you've witnessed since in the past 4 or 5 days.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sharon, for holding this space and talking about it. I mean, that's a very broad question, but what I can simplify it into saying in an answer is I've seen a micro Katrina happen in the western end of Altadena. And by that I mean the what you see on TV, is isolated to those images, right? And kind of in pictures. It doesn't quite give you the texture unless you're very familiar with the area. And but you see neighborhoods that have absolutely no destruction, to neighborhoods that is kind of spotted with a house burned here, a house burned there, on up to areas where you and I have mutual friends and community members where blocks are devastated,
That's
and completely burned to the ground.
So I want to talk a little bit about the backstory because when you mentioned Katrina, images come up in my mind that may be different than images that might come up for someone else. And what comes to mind for me is the people who are already economically challenged, who find themselves in the midst of a natural disaster. They are typically the ones who have a much tougher time coming through it and recovering, if they ever recover. So, for example, I spoke with someone, as a mutual friend of ours, and I haven't asked for his permission to share his name,
Hmm.
but he lost everything. And this is a
Everything.
man who is in his 70s. And he just sort of mentioned, we were texting with each other. And I said, well, if you don't mind sleeping on the couch, you got a place here, just come on over. And he said to me that he couldn't get a hotel or a motel because he didn't have homeowners insurance or
Hmm.
fire coverage on his home. So let's talk about that from an economic standpoint. Those who were already struggling, what have you been seeing, but with the people that you personally know?
Sure. The Katrina reference is Katrina hit just before the 1st of September. So it was the end of the month, right? When we look at this disaster, we're less than 2 months out of Thanksgiving. Christmas has just happened, and the first has just happened. So this is a time that people, in many cases save up for, plan for, and enjoy their family and sharing with others, and gifts and food and other things. And what I mean by that is they may be a little bit stretched and just kind of recovering, perhaps with those who may be on fixed income, paycheck to paycheck, may not have the cash reserves or access to cash or liquidity, right? um, they're in a situation now where this happens a few days into the year. You would assume have paid your rent, your mortgage, and the kind of the other things that you do around the first, and to be in a situation now where you need shelter for an indefinite amount of time, and there's not the availability of hotels. I tried when we had to evacuate, and then there's the financial cost associated with anywhere from $100 on up to $300 and more per night. And so Many of the people I'm talking to, something that landed on me heavily yesterday, and another mutual, and I won't share their name, um, and in asking what did they need, they said everything, but they have nowhere to put it. You can give me a can of soup, but it needs to come with a can opener. It needs to come with a bowl. And do you have a spoon or a microwave, or, kind of the things that we just take absolutely for, either convenience granted, or, it's just normalcy, right? Um, Folks, many of them haven't even been able to return um, to their neighborhoods and homes. And, because I have media credentials, I was able to go behind the lines, and it's bad. It's really, really, really devastating. And, up until about maybe a day or so ago, there's still like properties smoldering and flare up. So, we're still in somewhat of a uh, active situation here, but the threat may not quite be the same.
That's right. I've been watching the coverage over the past 3 or 4 days. I actually, on the night of Tuesday evening, I could actually see the flames from my living room window because of where we live. We don't live in Pasadena. We live in Northeast Los Angeles, but we're very close, just like 2, 3 miles from the Pasadena, Altadena area. And at
Hmm.
night, flames were visible with the naked eye.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and there's an emotional experience of watching this and knowing that I have friends, a lot of friends. That's where we worship. That's where all of our volunteerism. Dick and I are in the leadership of the ACLU Pasadena Foothills chapter,
Hmm.
as are you. So we're very involved with the Pasadena community. And I didn't realize that you had been evacuated. Um, talk
Yeah.
to us about, what emotionally, what that experience was for you and your wife and your small young child and teenage daughter.
Yeah. And even the dog, right? That we were a
Mhm.
whole unit in this. I live on the east end of Pasadena, Eden Canyon. I would consider, a part of my extended backyard. It's, the entryway into it is, about a half a mile away, walking distance.
Mhm.
Um, and so, where it started, I'm hearing sirens, the wind is whipping crazy. Um, about 6:30 or so, and then my wife kind of texts me around 7:30 and say, "Hey, are there fires?" And I'm not trying to alarm the kids. They're not necessarily paying attention to all of the sirens. Um, and my ignorance, right? I don't know any better. My mind said I don't hear helicopters, so it must not be that bad, right? I'm not factoring in the wind, right? And that they can't come here. So because of how close we are to the foothill, we couldn't see the flames from our house.
Mhm.
So, I could smell the smoke. That's not anything new. Um, but around about, somewhere between 7:30 and 8:30, we kind of start after a neighbor came by and said, "Hey, I don't know." And my daughter's friend is like, "We're leaving." And, we kind of start gathering a few things. And about 8:30, somewhere between 8:30 and 9, the police came through our neighborhood on a PA system, ordering, suggesting, telling us to leave now, evacuate now. And, it wasn't a question for us at that point. I've never been so compliant with a police request. But yeah, we left, tried to find a hotel, didn't want to get too far away. This isn't going to be that bad of a situation, I think is what we were thinking in our head. Ended up in Orange County, huddled up in a family member's living room, all four of us, the
And the
kids,
dog.
the dog too. They were gracious enough to allow that. They're not pet owners, but they were open to that night. And I wake up the next morning and talk with someone, that same mutual, and he tells me he has evacuated. And in my mind, I didn't understand how or why. He is completely on the west end of town. And then the phones start going off. And then began to start understanding that the fire had, in fact, shifted. The winds were coming due south in our direction, and the winds had shifted to the west. And we end up where we are now. But as a family, we were fine, in the sense that we had each other, and we weren't threatened by heat or flames immediately. It's kind of the afterwards, I understand now, embers and just kind of how close we could have been. And then now learning that so many people, Sharon, I mean, hundreds, thousands of our friends and community members lost everything
Yeah.
that they own. And I'm learning, I haven't confirmed, but I'm learning the alerts we got on, the alerts that happen east of Lake, our historic redlining border, invisible line in this area, were much different than the communication and alerts on the west side.
Oh,
I don't
really?
know. That's yeah. I'm person after person. No one came through their neighborhood. Those neighborhoods that were ravished, I mean, just completely destroyed. They only left because the fire was right at their door, quickly coming. I know as the fire spread west, some folks evacuated from where they were to friends and family further west, right? And we're only talking about 4 or 5 miles in distance, or even less than. They went somewhere else, kind of later in the night, only to have to evacuate somewhere between the middle of the night again. And so for many, it happened so quickly
Yeah, yeah.
that, yeah. So,
So one of our mutual friends, we met yesterday with a group of people who live in Pasadena, and one of our mutual friends did not get any kind of warning. She
mhm,
just happened to open her front door,
yeah,
and there was fire in front of her house. And
yeah,
she couldn't go out of the front door. She went out the
yeah.
side, got in her
Hmm.
car. She lives alone. She doesn't have any pets. Got in her car and went to her daughter's house. And when she came back, there was a fire engine in front
Hmm.
of her. So I was telling my niece who lives in Riverside County, which is they're watching Riverside County because the winds that are
Hmm.
predicted to come
Hmm.
back in the next few days could impact Riverside. And I was telling her, pay attention to the news and don't rely on this notion that someone is going to tell you to evacuate. That might not ever happen because I know that was my friend's experience. No one told her to evacuate. And then on the other hand, I received, and so did Dick and my brother on our phones, an emergency evacuation. Loud noises on the phone, alerts, alert, leave, leave, leave immediately. And I'm going, oh my gosh, what? And I look out the window because we live at the top of a hill. And we live in an area where the streets are very narrow and it's difficult to get out. If everyone is leaving, you kind of want to be the first one out because you can easily get stuck in these
Sure.
hills.
Yeah.
And regular size fire engines can't get up these hills. They have special size because the
Right.
streets are so narrow. So I tried to confirm and then quickly learned that it was a mistake. That so there were false signals, false alerts that went out, as well as no alerts that went out to certain people. I just say that to say is we're not really set up to handle these kinds of disasters. And with global climate change, which many scientists are saying is a major contributing factor, with this continuing to be an issue in our lives, I think that it would not be unreasonable to say, hey, this might be something that goes on in our future.
Well, Sharon, I would say because and as I reflect, my wife was asking, how will we know to leave? And I said, we'll get a notification, right, on our phones. And it wasn't until we got home that we realized the only notification we got, which we're extremely grateful for, were the police coming through the neighborhood on a bullhorn on their PA system. The notification that you are speaking of went out countywide to everyone, and I think that was on Thursday.
Mhm.
So a full 48 hours into this whole event that was happening across the region. So that certainly is confusing and concerning. But you asked earlier, like kind of what I'm seeing, and you just talked about, we're not really set up for this. And and I'm really trying to temper my words right now. But some of there must be a culture in municipal workers,
Management.
right?
Hmm.
And with our electeds and those that we entrust, right? Those who have the privilege, those who work as public servants, right? That they may one day actually have to be competent and do their job. And so I'm sure in the aftermath, when things kind of settle at some point for the region, there'll be a reflective look back at brush clearing. I mean, the news and the National Weather Service did an excellent job in the week ahead of time, warning that this weather event was headed to our region, right? And so the preparedness on the folks and who are responsible in our government to do these jobs, I don't know where that landed. The alert system, we typically don't have problem with our social media. Every now and then they have a problem, but it seems to only be a problem when it's time for the government, right, to actually do what they're supposed to do. So my message to folks would be, know your neighbors, set up a communication tree. um, don't expect your government to save you. They're very good at destroying things and not necessarily, as efficient at helping with recovering or rebuilding. Um, Heed the alerts. Don't wait. If you're in a situation, leave. But then let's say you're the best prepared person, Sharon, and it just happened to be on that day you were 60 miles away and enjoying the evening and you couldn't get back. So your bug out bag and your safe in the house with your cash and currency is there and all your provisions and all of that there. And you've done all of those things. This is a situation where people have nothing. And now what's needed is relief, shelter, money, food,
That's right. That's
and of
right.
course, water. But we can't drink the water right now.
Yeah, that's right. You can't drink the water. So what are you doing about water?
We bought some, a nice
Hmm.
before the predatory capitalism kicks in at the stores. Because we came home Wednesday,
Hmm.
and stores were pretty empty in this area. We bought up, a share that we can carry, and then we'll make provisions if need be. But again, I don't understand. I'm not a scientist. Why, if I can't use the water at my house, why can I go to a restaurant and use a soda fountain? Or why are they allowed to serve me water? I'm just a little confused.
Yeah, I think that this is a great time for us to reflect on what is the role of government? Why do they
Yeah.
exist? And what is our role? Those of us who have the ability to vote, those of us who have the ability to get engaged and make demands for the people that we've elected to provide the services that they should be providing to the people. And especially when it comes to insurance.
Mm-hmm.
For-profit insurance, in my mind, shouldn't even
Mm-hmm.
exist. Shouldn't have such thing
Mm-hmm.
as for-profit insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so, James, before we close, I want you to talk about the show that you have on KBLA. If you have it, what you're doing, I know that Dominique
Mm-hmm.
Diprima of KBLA is going to be doing something in the Altadena, Pasadena area on Thursday. Can you shed any
Yes.
light on that?
Yes. KBLA, as you know, I contribute. You're a regular guest on Dominique's show. I contribute on her show, and KBLA is on mission with amplifying Black voices, which is something that we have not seen in mainstream media, and that was not what was initially reported. So Dominique wants to center the Black voice and the experience because, as we're learning, there are thousands of Black folks that are displaced right now. Um, and so this Thursday, June 16th, she's going to do her show live from Perry's Joint in Pasadena. The folks are welcome to come. It's 6 to 9 a.m. I have lined up some guests. She's asked me to help co-produce this particular show for her, and I'm extremely grateful to her and Tavis Smiley, the founder and chief visionary officer of KBLA 1580 AM, which is the only Black-owned talk radio station, progressive talk radio station west of the Mississippi. And so they're going to set up a live remote um, for that purpose of raising those voices. And then also directing resources to some folks who are very active in the community with helping uh, their neighbors.
Thank you so much. So we look forward to and we want to lift that up and tell the LA progressive community to share this story, to tune in to KBLA and to have to look at the differences in the way that the coverage is provided. Altadena has been a historically Black community. They have deep roots. Black people have deep roots in Altadena. And when I look at the coverage on mainstream media, it's kind of, I think, neglected, even though it is mentioned. But there are people who just don't have the kinds of resources that they have in the Palisades. And the stories that what they're going to be experiencing is very different, just like
The
Katrina, very
Yeah,
different.
the insurance issues that are getting ready to represent themselves. I mean, the fact that even under the best case scenarios, where someone would be 3 to 5 years, before they're really in a new structure on their old structure, and so this is not a 2-day event, a 3-day event. Um, Altadena, this area has been changed forever, and many African Americans in multi-generational homes will not be returning to the area. And so, to our progressive audience, LA progressive audience, please free yourself of, if you only have $5 to give to someone who is in need, they are operating from a space of nothing. And so don't take any ego or shame that you wish you could do more, because the need is so great right now. Folks need everything. So I would tell people, if you know somebody, and do what's on your heart directly with them. And right now, not so much a larger collective of
Mhm.
things. I
Mhm.
just don't know how that will, your friends and family, and maybe someone who asks you, do you know someone? Take that as a trusted source right now. We don't need any predatory capitalism like the Airbnb data grab that happened through this process. Um, so help them that way. There will be plenty other opportunities that you can get on a monthly donation schedule, because the need is going to be that great for so many.
Well, James Farr, I can't say it was a pleasure talking to you today. I mean, you've been a friend for many years. I'm so happy that you and your family are safe and your dog. Um, and we'll stay in touch and probably revisit this as the weeks and months and sadly years
Yes.
progress. Righty.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. Say hello to Dick for me, and always agape.
Thank you for sticking around. If you like the LA Progressive content and the discussions we have here, please consider clicking the subscribe button below and also give us a thumbs up. That helps to grow our audience by feeding the algorithm, which helps to get this content in front of more eyes. Thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate your support.